Hello, everybody. My name is Dominique Gibson, and I am the self-published author of 3 books in the Tucson SET series. Is anybody curious about it? I am the author of Enormous Revenge. This is the first book in the Tucson SET series. I am also the author of actually the first 3 books in the Tucson SET series. So the first book for right now, as of right now, this is the first book. Enormous Revenge will technically always be the first book. Whatever, long story. But the second book in the Tucson SET series is Enormous Fate. And the third book in the Tucson SET series is Enormous Allegiance. And I will include a link down below on where you can get all 3 of these wonderful, fabulous books online, right? So I can hold them up. Wait. Okay, whatever. And I am also the author of Courtney's Redemption. This is actually the first draft in book form of this. It's part of the Tucson SET series. It is a novella that actually becomes, which is actually a in between this book right here, which is Enormous Revenge, and Famous Betrayal, which will be coming out hopefully sometime this year. I'm trying to push for Courtney's Redemption this year and A Famous Betrayal this year. All right, enough about me. If you want to know more about me and my publishing journey, I'll be sure to include a link down below when it comes to that situation. Today's topic, I also have a video, my first video on why I officially decided to say no to traditional publishing. I'll include a link down below when it comes to that as well. It officially, I wanted to become a hybrid author ever since last year. I was debating it back and forth between me just continuing my self-publishing path and going hybrid, which means going both self-publishing and traditional publishing. And I had some ups and downs when it came to that particular issue. Excuse me. I had some ups and downs when it came to that particular issue. And some of my ups and downs were pretty valid. In the first video, I talked about another video where there was this editor who was talking about traditional publishing and what was going on now, which I won't get into too much detail about because I really want you to watch that video and my video as well on my take on everything. And she brought up some valid points about editors, what they're going through now, literary agents, and like the whole publishing industry burnout and all that stuff. And as I was watching this video, I come to realize that I did not like where traditional publishing was going at this point, especially when it came to the editors who works at the publishing house, in addition to the literary agents who work for these publishers at a publishing house and all that stuff. And I just didn't like where it was headed, where it was going. So I had some reasons that she brought up that I totally agreed with, that made me just automatically just said, no, I don't want to do traditional publishing anymore. I don't like where it's going. Editors, burnout, all that stuff. So like I said, I won't go into too much detail about it because I really want you to watch the videos and let me know what you think about it. This second video is part 2 of one of the reasons why I'm saying no to traditional publishing altogether. I have officially decided to go self-publishing, and I have officially found another possible way where I can actually make money outside of the publishing world, but it'll give me enough income in order to cover some of the costs that I would have to do when it comes to self-publishing. So with me in particular, I think I'm willing to take that risk of doing this particular job outside of self-publishing for a little bit, outside of the book coaching for a little bit, just so I can earn enough money in order to support my self-publishing and maybe my book coaching career as well. So for anybody that's interested in my book coaching services, technically right now, the only genres that I'm interested in reading or pursuing is romance, except historical, young adult, and women's fiction. Those are the only 3 genres right now that I currently am coaching in. I will probably coach more genres in the future. Just right now, I'm really familiar with, those are the genres that I'm really familiar with and would love to read and coach people on. So if you are interested, I will be sure to include a link down below as well for you to sign up on my website. Okay, so part 2 of this video is basically talking about, and I swear I want to pronounce her last name correctly, but I just don't know how to do it. So I'll just call her Miss Bethany, but her name, I think, is Bethany Atazadeh, and I swear I do not know how to pronounce her last name. I do apologize. I've tried to pronounce it and I really don't want to pronounce it wrong. So Bethany Atazadeh, it's her last name. She recently did a video that caught my attention, and it was called "I Don't Want to Be Traditionally Published Anymore," because she had the same kind of the similar goals that I had when it came to going to traditional publishing market after being self-published when it came to her work. And she said it was she planned it out as one of her goals, but somewhere along the lines, she has recently done a video about why she didn't want to do traditionally publishing anymore. And some of the things that she actually pointed out was something that I agreed with. It was hard for me to make this decision because before I became a self-published author, her path was different from mine. I was one that was like querying agents constantly on book 1 of An Arm's Revenge. I don't know if you actually watched my videos. I queried for years, from anywhere from 2009 off and on until 2019, when I officially decided to self-publish my book on Amazon instead of going a traditional publishing route. I had constant rejection. I actually had one agency that I thought maybe was interested in pursuing the work, but they said at the time the market that my book was promoting in was dead, and and they wanted me to write something else. I didn't write anything else. I was like, I love this series. I love writing the characters. I love everything there is to love about it. So I continued to write it, and eventually I found another alternative path, and that alternative path was self-publishing on Amazon. And then eventually it went wide, and that was the end of that. I went back and forth, thought about doing hybrid, but I never really thought about saying, hey, let's just dump self-publishing and just go traditional. Never thought of it that way. I would say the only real reason why I thought about going a traditional publishing path was because I thought at one point I would make a really great, what you call category romance writer. And that's when romance writers write within a particular word count and genre for these major publishers, one of them being Harlequin. Harlequin is one of the biggest romance publishers in the world. And if you want to learn more information about them, because I won't delve into that either, because this is not what this video is about, I will link the description box down below if you want to learn more about Harlequin and romance. But long story short, that's where I originally wanted to publish with. I later figure out that I'm not really a category romance writer, because I like to add a lot of secondary characters to my work. And sometimes it can override it, but it's to a point where it does stick to the original romance plot. But sometimes my characters take a life all on its own, and I feel as if that's okay because I'm self-publishing my work and I don't have to have a publisher telling me that, no, you know what, we want you to calm down the secondary characters and just focus on the hero and the heroine of the story. And I think I'm talking exactly into why I said no to self-publishing, but I kind of want to back it up a bit and I kind of want to get started. So here are the reasons why I'm saying no to traditional publishing. And this is based off of another video that I watched. I don't want to be traditionally published anymore. Okay, so one of the things that she brought up in this video was that her books are a genre blend. So she described that she has some Christian elements to it, some sci-fi elements to it. And in traditional publishing, this is what you call a huge no-no. She has a point when it comes to saying that with traditional publishing, it has to be either one or the other. Why? Because they feel as if you genre blend your work together, that there will be literally no market that will do the genre blending format. They won't know where to put it. They can put it in Christian or they can put it in sci-fi. They can't really put it in both, because if you look at a bookstore, they have different sections of different genres of where everything is supposed to go. So if sci-fi is on the other end of the bookstore and Christian is on the other end of the bookstore, it causes confusion as to where they want to place the book in the bookstore, basically. So I fully agree when it comes to this genre blend, because I think, and I really need to go back on my notes when it came to my professor back at Southern New Hampshire University that did my thesis novel. She made a point about, she said it was, my book was the second draft of A Female's Betrayal. She said that it was good, but she said she doesn't know where she would place it in the publishing world, traditional publishing world, because it's a genre blend. It's a sci-fi superhero, it's a romance. She said she doesn't know. So, and she told me that I really need to figure that out. Little does she know that the book that I had written out for my thesis novel was never intentionally going to be self-published anyway. It's going to be self-published, not self-published, traditionally published. It was going to be self-published anyway, not traditionally published. But her point and what Bethany said just made a valid point about traditional publishing being strictly, your book being strictly in one genre, and that's it. That's all they're going to do. So if you genre blend, it doesn't, they feel as if it doesn't really have a place in traditional publishing, and that's fine. But I feel as if they are missing out on opportunities when it comes to authors who love to genre blend. I guess I'm one of those people who love to genre blend, because I have superhero hybrids who fall in love, and apparently it has a little bit of sci-fi and a little bit of romance, and I guess that's a genre blend that people don't really want to see or hear about when it comes to traditional publishing. I frankly don't know. I don't know if it's a genre blend or not. I just like writing the books. That's it. If it's a genre blend, it's a genre blend. Who cares? I don't care. I just love writing the books. And I just like it when people read the books and tell me what they think about it. That's just it. So she was talking about how's the risk in traditional publishing, and I just explained it even further, that it is a risk when it comes to traditional publishing, because they're thinking about bookstores and how it would be labeled in a bookstore and even online. But that's kind of changing too, because you can add more than one category online, versus if you go in a bookstore, they have to place it somewhere in the bookstore in one place. So I agree, it's genre blending does not have a place in traditional publishing world, but I highly think it will have a place in the self-publishing world. So that's my take on that. then she went into one of the things that I 100% agree with is control. So in self-publishing, you're able to control whatever it is that you want to control. Cover design, editors, you want to hire editors, cover designers, publishers, publicists, marketers, whatever you want to do. You can, if you have the money, you can hire whoever it is you want to hire to promote your books, to design your book covers, all that goody stuff. It's all in your hands. Versus with traditional publishing, it's not really all in your hands. I've heard stories about authors who didn't like the book covers on their books, who actually had problems when it came to the book cover, and then they'll go to the publisher and be like, hey, you know what, I don't really like this book cover, and the publisher's like, we don't really care because you signed a contract. Once you sign a contract, we're in control of your book and there's nothing you can say about it. So I've had stories heard like that, and one emphasis on control is the fact that if, say for instance, you are a traditionally published author and you market your book on online venues, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and you have somebody who's from another country that comes to you and asks you, hey, when is your book going to be available in my country? Because I would love to read it. You have to tell that person, if you are under traditional publishing, oh no, you know what, I'm so sorry, but I am not in control of that. I don't know when my books are going to be published in your country, if ever at all. And this actually happened to one author who is mega famous in the romance writing and young adult world. Mega famous. I mean, she's been at it for years. She'll probably continue to be at it for years. But that part really disturbed me, because it's like you have fans that are outside of the United States who really wants to read your books, even if it's in English, but you have to literally, the author literally has to tell them that my books are not going to be available in your country right now, especially if they have these contests. They'll have these contests in the United States where you can win a book, but it's only available in the United States. It's not available anywhere else except the United States. And I know of this author, this famous author, who actually, I think, started to lose a lot of international fans because they wanted to be entered in the same contest as the people in the United States was entered in the same contest. And I know that it's really not the author's fault. It's because the publisher has control over everything. It has control over your rights, has control over your foreign rights, your film rights, everything like that. And yes, it can be negotiated, but at the same time, you signed a contract. And a lot of times, a lot of authors do not read their contracts or whatever. They just sign. They're just so happy to sign on that sometimes they don't look at the fine print when it comes to contracts. And it just gets to a point where the publisher is in control of your book. You're no longer in control of your book. So if they tell you that you need to change a character in a book and you feel as if you disagree when it comes to that situation, it becomes a hassle because the publisher is like, well, you signed a contract, so you have to do exactly what we tell you, or else you're not going to get the money that you are seeking. Especially when it comes to the beginning part of the process, where you have to literally sign a contract and then they give you 1/2 or 1/3 of royalty checks throughout within months of each other, months, years of each other, which is something that I think I'll talk about a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, so I agree with that. Self-publishing, you are in control of everything, which is something that I actually like as well. With traditional publishing, not so much. And that can be stifling at times, especially when it comes to me. If I feel as if I don't want to write something that I feel as if is fine, then that's going to be a problem when it comes to me in traditional publishing. So her view of it was that the covers are super ugly. And I have to admit, some of the covers are a little weird and doesn't make sense. I don't know if I revealed this in a previous video, but I did not pick up the original Twilight book because the cover did not scream at me young adult. I'm sorry, it just didn't. It screamed at me like an adult fantasy because of the way that the covers looked. It was about a chess, it was a chess piece on it with one of the covers, and I'm just like, okay, I think that's like a fantasy thing, whereas it involves chess. That's what I thought. It wasn't until the movie version of Twilight came out and they changed the book cover that I actually picked it up and read it, because I saw that Bella and Edward were actually on the cover, which was by Kristen Stewart, and Robert Pattinson was on the cover of the book. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I picked it up and I read it. And lo and behold, it's been one of my favorite books ever since. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but in certain situations, in that situation I did. I judged the book by its cover. I didn't want to read it. And with this, with Enormous Revenge, even though it's not like the prettiest cover, well, it's supposed to be technically a romance novel, right? So with this book, I didn't really want to make it into what everybody else was doing, whereas they have a sexy man on the cover or they have a sexy cover on a couple to make it scream romance, right? I kind of want to do something a little bit different. And I actually got I got one review from somebody that I gave my book away to, and she was like, oh my God, I love the cover. So that just reiterates the fact that not all the covers have to be the way that traditional publishers want it to be, even though I might have a harder time selling the book because the cover is different, but I'll take the risk because I actually like my book covers. This is Enormous Fate. And this is the print version. The ebook version is probably kind of different. I thought about changing it, but whatever. Control with release dates. Yes, that's actually true. With self-publishing, you can release a book whenever time you feel like it. So with me, I guess if I was like a full-time author, I'll probably be writing a little bit faster than what I'm writing now. But now I am what you call a slow writer. So I published my book in 2019. There was 2 books that I published in 2019. One book I published in 2021, because I didn't publish anything in 2020 except to get the newsletter. And now I'm in the process of writing Courtney's Redemption and try to get a final push out by the end of this year. And then on top of that, I still have to finish, because I'm 50,000 words in when it comes to the 4th book, which is A Famous Betrayal. And I have to push that out by the end of the year. And it's already May. So it's like, oh my God, really? But I really want to get it done because my goal is to do 2 books a year. But it's hard for me to get it done considering the fact that I'm in one of the lowest paid industries in the world. And I'm really trying my best in order to reach to get another job so I can actually be able to afford to continue to self-publish and hire editors and all that stuff for my books. So it's just been really difficult for me to, do a lot of things when it comes to self-publishing. Okay, so I am recording. Okay, so release dates. That's what I was talking about. So self-publishing, you can release it whenever you want to release it. With traditional publishing, they're in control of the release date. So let's say, for instance, something happens at the traditional publishing house and they have to push your release date back. I don't know how other people will feel about it, but I would be a little upset about it, because why would you push my release date back? Yeah, because an editor probably left a publishing house, or yeah, because their backlog with other manuscripts. So now they have to do all this X, Y, and Z stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but when is my book going to be published? And then they was like, well, we can do 2 months, we can do 6 months, we can even push it back a year because we're so swamped at this publishing house or we're so swamped at this literary agency that we're not going to be able to do anything about it until, things get better or something. Some crazy excuse, right? On Facebook, there was one author, romance author, who worked with Harley Quinn, and her books got pushed back because they wanted her to do a rapid release of all 3 to 4 books in a series. And I think that was highly motivated by the fact that at the time, self-publishing was doing, some authors in self-publishing were doing what you call rapid release, whereas they would release books back to back, 1 to 3 months, every 1 to 3 months, back to back to back to back to back. I thought about doing that too, but it's too much for me. I cannot handle rapid release. I can't do none of that stuff. Even if I was a full-time author, that's something that I just wouldn't be able to do. It's too time consuming, and I don't know how effective rapid release publishing is. I heard that it works somewhat really well when it comes to some authors, and other authors it doesn't work as well. But like I said, I'm a slow writer, and it takes a lot of time for me to actually write a book, rewrite it, and then submit it to my editor. That editor has to take time because she's an independent editor. She has a lot of other clients that she has to do, and it's crazy. So, but the fact that I can release the book whenever I feel like it is pretty good. I like that idea. And she talked about the timeline, which was 2 years, which is correct. So from the time that you actually write the book until you actually get it published, it takes just about 2 years. Although that might change considering the fact that due to the recent trends of what's happening in the traditional publishing world now, 2 years might be quick compared to what's happening now. It might be more than 2 years later on down the line if things don't change within the traditional publishing market. Just saying. So another thing she brought up was being your own boss. I agree. I like being my own boss. I like doing my own newsletters. I like doing my own YouTube videos. Eventually I'm going to do some ads, but ads just, oh God, that's a whole nother marketing strategy altogether that I have to learn. And I'm just like, do I really want to learn it? But she is true that you have to be your own boss. Whereas with traditional publishing, it will feel like they say that you are in control, but you're not really in control because you have somebody else telling you when you're supposed to write your book, the deadline in which you have to submit your book, the deadline in which you have to rewrite your book, and then the final deadline is when the book is supposed to be published. And that's not all within the author's hands, that's within the publisher's hands too. So I can understand that. Being my own boss, I mean, she's a full-time writer, but being your own boss is not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to self-publishing, because you get to control whatever it is you want to control. Money. This is actually a good one because I do agree that with self-publishing, you can make more, but the fact that you don't have an advance kind of turns people off sometimes. And I can't say I don't blame them, but at the same time, it's like with self-publishing, the book that you self-publish online will stay online for years to come, right? It won't be taken off the shelves within 1 or 2 years if you don't have much of a return on an investment like traditional publishing does. Even though right like now you have online or whatever with traditional publishing, it's just like, do you really control the money when it comes to that? Absolutely not. They can give you advance, but in actuality, whatever that advance is, you have to earn double or triple that advance in order to not only pay back your publisher and everybody else that's involved, but in order to keep money for yourself too. And that's difficult. So what do I mean by that? So let's say, for instance, you were offered an advance of $10,000. Let's admit it. An advance in the publishing world is literally a loan. They're telling you that they're going to pay you $10,000 because this is how much they think your book is going to be worth when it's actually on sale, when they actually publish the book. So they give you $10,000, right? They don't give you the $10,000 right away. It's broken up into 3 parts so far. I don't know. They probably changed it now, but it was one where they'll give it to you up front for signing the contract. Another part when you do the rewrites to the book, and then the final check was when the book actually was on publication. So those were like the 3 $10,000 checks that you would get every couple of months. And then on top of that, you won't see any more money until after the book is published, which is considering the fact that remember, this is a 2-year time span. So, so after this 2-year time span, you really have to save $10,000 to save that $10,000, or else you're not gonna have any money in order to be a full-time author, and you're gonna be broke. So after all this, they usually track your sales between every 3 to 6 months. So first 3 to 6 months, you might not make any sales, but then after that, it'll be a miracle if you start trickling in the money. But I heard that when you don't make any sales in the first 3 to 6 months, traditional publishers are already like, we don't know if we're going to give this person another contract or not, because she's not making money off of it. So majority of the times they'll tell writers they can keep their money. I don't think I've ever heard them saying that, hey, you have to give us our money back. But at the same time, I've also heard them say, publishers are not going to give you another contract if you can't make up that quota of 10,000 or more. So, and let's say you do make that quota. Even if you make that 10,000 back, there's still the possibility of you having to pay publishers, literary agents, and all that stuff, that $10,000, and you might not have nothing left. If you go above the $10,000, though, there's a possibility you might have a little money left in your pocket, right? But still, you still have to pay that publisher back. And this is for every single time you publish a book with them. It's not just a one-time deal, it's every single time. That's why a lot of authors do not get a lot of money when it comes to traditional publishing. And I can't say I don't blame them, because look at the system. I mean, and it's tragic, but it is what it is. Yeah, with traditional publishing, it's all about the release, and sometimes they go by your first 6 months of the release date. So if you don't make money within the first 6 months, you're doomed. Or if you don't make money before the release date, you're doomed. I don't know what that's about, but excuse me. She talked about the shelf life being much longer in self-publishing than in traditional publishing. She would be correct, because in self-publishing, they can order your book 2 or 3 years down the road, and you can make boatloads of money 2 or 3 years from now. The Juice on SAT series, I might only have 3 books right now for sale. I plan on writing more, but say for instance, like another year or so down the line, who knows? I might have a upswing in sales where people are like literally buying my book by the boatloads, and they want to read more of it. So that's something that I like. It'll have a longer shelf life. It'll never like officially go away unless you hit the excuse me, the delete button on Amazon. But even then, it's still iffy on if it really goes away or not. But that's something to consider, is the fact that no matter where your books are, they'll be on the internet forever. They're not gonna go away. So that's one of the things I like. And even though they're doing it online in traditional publishing, again, the profits that you make from that online sale is not going to go all directly to you. It's going to go to traditional publishing and publishers and editors and all that stuff. So it's actually a pretty decent thing that they have going when it comes to self-publishing world. When it comes to Amazon, Draft to Digital, Ingram Spark, which is a whole nother discussion I have to talk about when it comes to Ingram Spark now. But and she finally talked about marketing. Whereas you are in control of the marketing when it comes to self-publishing. You can market wherever, whenever you want to, whereas in traditional publishing, you may not do that. Authors do have to market their work, but I think they literally have to have some sort of restriction or have to ask the publisher in order to market their book in certain places. And that would really bother me too, because if I'm the one that has to market the work, why is it that I feel as if I have to be restricted when it comes to marketing it because I signed a contract with you guys and whatever? So, like BookBub, I heard about BookBub and all this stuff, whereas traditional publishers probably would refuse author from being on BookBub or doing a BookBub deal. Self-publishing, you don't have no restrictions. I guess that's the main reason of why I did this video, is the fact that I don't like the restrictions when it comes to traditional publishing. I don't like other people telling me what to do, what and what not to do when it comes to publishing and distributing my books. Yeah. Self-publishing, I have the freedom to do whatever I want. And it feels kind of good. Traditional publishing, you don't have much of that option. You just don't. And she was also, last in her video, she was talking about how traditional publishing has become political. In a way it has. Lately in the publishing world, there has been some issues when it came to diverse voices in publishing, which I somewhat agree. I think that it needs to be more diverse voices when it comes to publishing, when it comes to Black authors, Asian authors, any culture, sexuality. That's a topic too, whereas people in the LGBTQ community have spoken out about they need more books that represent them. And I think the traditional publishing heard their voices about that, and now they're pushing that agenda. Well, I won't say agenda, but they're supporting them to a point where I'm seeing more and more books about the LGBTQ community and stuff like that. I think it has gotten political to a point where people are starting to write about stuff that other readers would probably be really sensitive about. I know that there was a huge issue when it came to COVID, writers writing about COVID-19. Big issue on that, because a lot of people were like, I don't want to read about something that's happening in real time. I don't want to read about COVID-19. I lost too many people when it comes to COVID-19, stuff like that. So I know that was a big issue. Diverse voices, COVID-19, what else? Well, I won't, let's not talk about race, right? RWA, Romance Writers of America, and the scandal that came along with that. It has gotten a little political, and when you go in that direction, sometimes it just really takes away from the fact that readers just want to read books just because they want to escape from the world, especially romance novels and YA. They just want to escape from the real world and just focus on the fantasy world and just let things just drift away. And I have to say, I'm one of those people. I was on the verge of doing Weslow Heights. I don't know if this is going to actually be a project that I'm going to self-publish. And I'm going to tell you why. With the True Sign SCT series, this is all fantasy. It's fantasy, it's sci-fi. It doesn't really exist in the real world spectacle, but it's a fantasy, whereas people get to escape. They don't have to worry about paying their bills. They don't have to worry about money when it comes to reading these books, because the characters, they're all rich. They're wealthy, right? They don't scrape by when it comes to the money and all that stuff, and you know, they get to fall in love, and they get to be happy ever after. You know, stuff like that. And that's what a romance novel is technically supposed to do, right? You're supposed to have the hero and heroine, because it's a fantasy. You want to escape into the fantasy. You don't want to bring the fantasy into the real world, because, you know, it gets crazy. Whatever. I am currently reading this book right now. Brenda Novak, When I Found You. And it's really interesting. It's a very nice book. But let me see. Is this it's a mirror. It's a mirror books. I thought maybe it was HQN. HQN and mirror is a different thing. Whatever. I don't want to talk about it. But this book had an issue that I was currently dealing with when it came to my own life, right? So a little bit of a spoiler alert. So it talks about this woman who is trying to rebuild her life after this really horrible event happened to her in another town, in another state. And she's also rebuilding her life because of the man that she got involved with. And this man that she got involved with reminded me of the man that I got involved with, currently got involved with, when it came to my previous relationship. And it was just like flashback, and it was like, ugh. And it was something that kind of had a little bit of a trigger moment. And that's the kind of stuff that I try to stay away from, right? I mean, it talks about the real world. It's a contemporary romance / women's fiction. Well, I won't say it's women's fiction. I say this one is a contemporary romance. I have to admit, because it's just focusing on one person, the hero and the heroine. They're not focusing on basically anybody else, even though they have secondary characters in there. They're basically focuses on the hero and heroine. So it's the hero and heroine. So it's a contemporary romance to me. Anyway, that was like a trigger moment for me, and that's why I was just like, I don't like writing books about this. With Weslow Heights, I got into what? I had the hype, but I got into like chapter 2 or chapter 3 when it came to one of my characters, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm really gonna finish this book or not, because it's too realistic. I'm getting to a point where I'm getting bored with it, and I'm like, I know that I need to finish it, but it's like, do I really want to finish it? Technically, this was supposed to be a book that was for traditional publishing, because I like I said, I like reading about women's fiction, but the question remains, do I really want to write women's fiction, or do I just want to continue to write the True Sign SCT series and continue to write this sci-fi superhero thing, sci-fi superhero romance type books? And come to find out, I like writing about that way better than I like writing about Weslow Heights. So I just kind of like writing within that fantasy sci-fi thing, whereas it provides that escape from me. Whereas when I read books about this, it's great, but it's real world, it's real life, and you know, this is how it is. And it's like, I don't want to be reminded of the real world sometimes, because sometimes it could be terrible when it comes to discussing the real world and everything that's going on. So I'll probably, more than likely, I don't know if I'm going to finish the book or not. It's a question mark. I would like to finish the book, but I don't know if this particular book is one that I want to continue writing, or if it's just something that I'll just put on the back burner and say for a rainy day. I don't know. Um, yeah, but it was just basically those points that she was talking about. And I try not to go too much into what she was talking about. Like there was bullet points where she was talking about control and all that stuff. And I'll let you hear some of her opinions when it came to what she said and your take on this. Like I said, that was basically about it when it came to her video. Her talking about her decision why she doesn't want to pursue traditional publishing. I totally agree. I'm just not at that place right now, whereas I want to pursue traditional publishing. I don't even know if I'm going to actually pursue it in the future or not. Um, just the whole process of querying synopsis and getting rejection is just, it doesn't work for me anymore. Not when I have, I've published, self-published 3 books. One of them I actually got an award for. I kind of miss doing the awards contest because I used to enter all the time, even though I got some rejections. It was just fun for me to look forward to, but unfortunately funds have dried up when it came to this go round, because I know there was a lot of contests where today was actually a deadline. I'm just like, I can't do it. I really can't do it. I'm sorry. But I think that would be all for this video. Please keep watching this my channel. Subscribe to my channel if you're interested. Please keep watching the videos. I will be making an announcement soon about what I've decided to do when it comes to self-publishing and the ways in which I will figure out how to make the money that I need to make in order to self-publish my books. So that'll be coming up soon. Thank you for watching. I love that you guys are watching. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button so that you'll be informed of more videos to come. I will be sure all the links are down below if you want to check me out. That's great. I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to plead you. Okay? So have a good one. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.